Hi, thank you for watching my screencast. This lesson plan was for an AP Environmental Science class, and it's for a pretty much an ecology slash biodiversity unit where they're trying to figure out how all the different ecosystems are interrelated and how they all have a connection through their biogeochemical cycles. And then we talk about biodiversity and how different species play a role in those ecosystems. Coincidentally, we also end up doing a lot of data taking and graphing and analyzing of that data. So it's also got some math standards addressed. And then, of course, we have our technology standards addressed as the students are creating some end products and they're using research tools to construct their own knowledge. And they're collaborating using some Drive, the Google Drive, and using discussion postings. And then they're creating those end products and therefore utilizing their critical thinking, problem solving, and decision making skills. First, I want to show you Nearpod. It's a presentation tool. What's really neat, it's kind of like PowerPoint, except for that it has embedded in it a way for you to poll them and ask them open-ended questions to kind of keep them thinking and engaging in the lecture. And there are quiz questions, and they can answer them anonymously. Or they can put their name on there, whatever makes them more comfortable. But you can access web pages and do open-ended questions that way. Here's another tool for delivery. I've now started using Google Forms where I embed a screencast on the lecture so I can do a flipped classroom model and actually hold them accountable for watching it because I ask them questions immediately. And these are open-ended questions to get them thinking, and they end up synthesizing, and these are open-ended questions so we can go back and look at their answers together as a class and show how some of the answers that they come up with, how they could elaborate more, or how I give them examples of ones that were very specific and that would be appropriate for an FRQ. I wanted to show you also though what's really cool is that you can, you can add on, and it will grade it for you. If you go to the add-ons, you can add Flubberoo right here, and that will grade your assignment. So the very first one So for this unit, there's a long-term lab project they're working on, the eco columns, where they did basically bottom biology, and I created a template for them instead of a formal lab report, a written formal lab report like I used to do. This is a template. I got the idea from Glogster, but at the time I didn't have the educator account for Glogster, so I just made something on Google Drive because the whole point is I wanted them to be able to collaborate from home. But this is an example of what it looked like on their Drive, and then if you click on their, here we go. If you click on their video link, this is what you will see. Another task I had them complete are discussion postings. This is on my D2L E-Class for Gwinnett County page. And one of the topics up here, in your own words, give 3 reasons we should protect biodiversity and respond to one post. And then down here, reintroduction of the wolves. They were keystone species since they had to discuss the keystone species of the wolves. And this is a great way for them to analyze the content and the importance of the keystone species and the importance of all different species and how they're all interrelated. Then what's really cool is that they actually have to evaluate, which takes them to a higher level of blooms because they have to evaluate their peers and what they said. And of course, I set it up to where they have to post first before they can read other people's. And their last assessment and product is a Glogster, or it doesn't have to be Glogster, but it's basically they have to research either an invasive species, endangered species, or a keystone species. So one way I was going to differentiate, I was going to have enrichment opportunities for some of my gifted students. I wanted them to add a voice component to theirs. And then for my students who were struggling, I was trying to get them the template. I just clicked off of that by accident. But nonetheless, I was going to have a template set up for those who need some extra support, and then a few more enrichment activities for differentiation. Again, I was saying add a voice component, but also wanted them to add an indicator species to theirs. Some other ways that I used differentiation, though, is on my eco column groups, I did set those up specifically. I had strong students paired with weak students based on prior assessments. And finally, this is the lab report rubric that I use to assess my students right here. Some basic troubleshooting. Anytime you're going to use the internet, you need to make sure you have backup plans. You need to have resources in print for them to use if you have a research day scheduled and the internet goes out. You're also going to want to walk them through a few of any of the end products you want them to use. I had to walk them through Prezi. I had to show them a Smore. Here's what a s'more looks like. This is a flyer, basically, so it ends up being kind of like a poster board. They can use S'more. They were able to use Prezi. They were allowed to use, here's, basically this is a newsletter I sent home to the parents showing them that we're about to do the eco columns and that they're going to be bringing in materials for it. But anyway, you're going to want to walk your students through any of the potential products that you want them to come up with. And lastly, if I were to do this again and to improve my lesson, I probably would not use this format. It's one Google slide is how I set up the design because I was trying to mimic something like a Glogster. Now that I do have my educator account with Glogster, I will actually use that in the future. It had a lot more space. It was bigger and more visually aesthetic. This is what the presentation looks like for a Google slide. The last bit of troubleshooting advice I want to offer is you're going to use a Google Drive format, you need to make sure that they can walk through it with you. And you need to make sure that you set, when you share up here, you can see how I can share things. Anytime you go to share something on Google Drive, you need to make sure you set it to can edit. But that's pretty much it. Thank you for watching my screencast.